So the cost. I make it very clear that when I'm working with children, and particularly around anxiety, there is a maximum cost of £100. And people say to me, Gary, that is ridiculously cheap. Is that because you're just not very good? Are you trying to undercut the competition? And the answer to all of those is absolutely not. I've done a lot of training. I've worked with a lot of clients. I know what I'm doing with these processes. And I want to make this as affordable as possible. And that for me is key. If you do a search out there, paying privately for coaching, any type of therapy, can be extraordinarily expensive, and I think is out of the reach of a lot of people, particularly at this time when we have a cost of living crisis, and I think most people are having to think very carefully about how they spend their money. When it comes to kids, I've worked with children, and childhood should be an amazing time. A chance to see the world very much in black and white, to have fun, to enjoy those experiences, but also to learn that, not everything goes our way, that sometimes we can feel quite bad about stuff, and there are ways to overcome it. And I feel very, very strongly about that. And I consider myself very fortunate, and I consider the people around me as very fortunate in that we all had childhoods that more or less fit that idea. And I find it quite distressing that children are increasingly experiencing anxiety, and there is dreadful demand, incredible pressure on services, and kids can be hanging around for quite a long time with no resolution. So my commitment was to make this as affordable as possible. I worked out with this process that actually the time commitment from me is not as great as I first thought. Exchanging video messages is very simple. It gives me an awful lot of information in a very compact period of time, which is what this is all about. So the way I've priced this is to make it as affordable and accessible as possible. I can't go any lower. I'll be frank about that. This is how I make a living. So there is a bottom line there somewhere. And but I think this, working on the basis that most people will need that initial session, which I charge 50, or those initial message exchanges, which I charge £50 for. And then if we need that first face-to-face, then I charge an additional 20. I think most of the time, most people will resolve the issue for that £70. I don't want this to be one of those things that goes on forever and generates more and more money for me. It'd be lovely to do that on one hand. I'd feel very uncomfortable with that though, hence my commitment that this will be no more than £100, which is why I've priced it in the way that I do.